I'm here at the Clayton Center for our April Artists exhibit, and this month we are featuring two artists who work in oils. We have Brenda Behr, who's with me, and later we'll be speaking with Sue Avera. Now, Brenda, you're a lifelong accomplished artist. Will you tell us a little bit about how you got your start?
Wow, my mother could tell you better because I can't remember that far back. Truthfully, she says she can't remember when I wasn't in coloring books, but in 1958, my father, who was in the Air Force, was transferred to the Philippines. And we followed him 4 months later on a ship that took 28 days, and he had gifts for all of us waiting, and my gift was my first set of oils and private painting lessons. So I was doing my first oils when I was 9 years old.
Wow, that's amazing, and I'm sure you showed great promise at that age.
I can't remember when it wasn't a passion for me.
And you found a way to be an artist but make money. You chose a career path so you could make money as an artist.
My parents were good enough to provide college if we wanted it to both my brother and I. And I decided when I was 17, I guess, that if I was going to go to college, I should be able to make a living at it when I got out. And so I majored in communication arts. And the school that I went to was called RPI, which was Richmond Professional Institute. But 2 years into that, they changed and became Virginia Commonwealth University. And I graduated with a BFA in 1970. And my entire career as a graphic artist, art director, advertising art director, was in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And it was a wonderful career. I never put the paints away. It was a hobby for me then to paint. And so, but I was more of a Sunday painter. I enrolled in a figure oil class in 1976 and met my first husband there. But when I moved to North Carolina, that's when fine art became full-time.
Okay. Now, your display we have here this evening is all in oils. Brenda's also a very accomplished watercolor artist. And will you tell us a little bit about some awards that you've won and shows you've been in? Get to brag on yourself here.
Well, I moved to Goldsboro in 2003. I had been in a couple shows in Minnesota, but I had never had a solo show. So my very first solo show was at the Arts Council of Wayne County in 2004. It was entirely watercolors, and the name of the show was Goldsboro Unveiled. Almost from the get-go, when I came back to North Carolina, I realized, having been gone for 37 years, how many things had disappeared. And so a lot of my motivation painting things are to paint things, landmarks, and a lot of things are historically protected, but a lot of things aren't. And the minute I hear something's being torn down, I will rush to the scene and try to capture it either in watercolor or oil. And so a lot of these paintings are just landscapes, but a lot of them might include some iconic things. Certainly Krispy Kreme is one of the things I'm best known for, but that's protected and it's not going to ever go away.
Will you tell us a little bit about what inspires you and what you try to capture in your paintings?
Well, like I said, things that stir up memories for me is one thing, and that would be the landmarks. I have transitioned from iconic subject matter in landscape to iconic people. And so I'm doing more portraiture now in my oils. I still do a lot of watercolors, and those are primarily, they're either interiors or they're places, and most often familiar. I can't tell you I got to the point with the old well in Chapel Hill that I thought I couldn't paint it again, because at that time it was up to 17 paintings that I had painted and sold. And Krispy Kreme on Peace and Person in Raleigh is probably running head to head with Chapel Hill's old well in terms of iconic places. I'm attracted to beauty, and so often that depends on what the lighting is, what the time of year is. I like to paint on plein air, which is outside, and I get my inspiration directly from nature most often.
Will you tell us about the recent awards you've gotten?
Okay, I can't even remember now. I think it was last week. I got Best in Show for a figurative painting I did. It was Best in Show at the Community Council for the Arts in Kinston, North Carolina. And it was actually my second Best of Show there in the last 3 years. And last year I got a second place in Wayne County with a portrait. And this year my biggest recognition came via the North Carolina Seafood Festival, which each year asks artists to submit a painting that somehow illustrates commercial fishing in North Carolina. And I was lucky enough this year to have my painting selected, and they reproduce the painting and make each year a commemorative poster. And they've been doing that for 29 years, so it's quite an honor.
Okay, and Brenda, you have a website where you sell your work, BrendaBehr.com, is that correct?
I do, BrendaBehr.com. And the other thing I do is I paint events, and primarily in watercolor, and they're on location, and they're mostly weddings that I'm commissioned to do. So I have another website called weddingwatercolors.com. Most recently I painted a baby shower, and that was a first, and that was inside. But I did maybe 8 paintings at that baby shower. And typically a wedding, I'm running a wedding and reception, maybe about 18 very small, very quick watercolors.
What an amazing way to use your talent. That's wonderful. Well, we are honored to have you here at our exhibit, Clayton Visual Arts. We really appreciate it, Brenda.
Well, it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
And I hope you'll all come out to see her work. It's really beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Amy.
Now I'm here with Sue Avera. She's our other featured artist. She works in oil, and she's joined by her photographer, who you'll hear more about in a little bit. Sue, will you tell us a little bit about how you became an artist?
Well, I have always loved drawing and painting since I was a little child. When I was very young, I was always inspired by the colors in the stained glass windows in our church. And so I've always loved bright colors. When I was in high school, I had the opportunity to work with Dot Hooks. So she was my first mentor and art teacher. I went to East Carolina and East Texas and Louisiana for master's degrees. But I would say that a couple of years ago I went to China and I studied Chinese brush painting, and that was really where my style changed to do what I'm doing here with the large brushes and painting the spaces and that sort of thing.
Okay. So before that you did more realistic?
I started out more realistic, and my style has constantly changed over the years and become more and more abstract, and now is totally abstract.
Okay. Will you explain to us a bit about the process and what we're seeing when we look at your paintings?
Yes, I use really large brushes with long handles, and as I'm painting, I move my body and the brush, and I will paint on the paper, but I got the inspiration when I was studying Chinese brush painting that I wanted to deepen that space around the painting and the meaning of that. And so when I paint, I bring my brush up and I paint in the air, and it's almost like a dance with the brush, but really it's more about communicating that uplifting feeling for the viewer in the space.
I've watched some videos on Chinese watercolors. That's what I'm interested in, and it is amazing how much the brush will dance in the air before it hits the paper. So that's what you're trying to capture.
Well,
Somewhat.
I do. When the Chinese are doing their brush painting, they start by grinding their ink and meditating on that, and then the chi, what they believe is the chi, flows through them, through the brush, off the page when they're painting and back on the page. And that thought is what inspired me, because now my painting, the composition doesn't stop just at the painting. It flows into the air around the painting for the space. So I'm actually painting out in the air and an uplifting feeling for the viewer.
Right. And if you see her work, you can really see the energy in the work. And now with your photographer here, Johnny Dickerson, you were able to capture some of that movement that we don't see on the canvas. Can you explain a little bit about that?
The movement that is the invisible part of my painting. If you look at Johnny's photographs, he captures where the light and the swirls and the color move. It's a good representation of the idea that I have in my mind of what I'm doing.
Johnny, you want to tell us a little bit about what you did?
Basically what I do is called light painting. It's when you use a camera at night and you open up the shutter. When you open up the shutter, basically instead of a picture being a split second, it's basically seconds, if not minutes long. So it's really a long, blurry photograph essentially. And what happens is you put it on a tripod, and as the ground doesn't move, you can actually use a light source and move, and that light source will actually be illuminated throughout the photograph. And Sue contacting me as far as how she actually paints in the air can't actually be visualized, but with light painting it can be.
Right, it's amazing. So when you come, you'll see Sue's paintings, but next to them you will see Johnny's photograph showing the painting, but also you'll see all the light that was captured. The light's connected to the ends of the brushes. So that's amazing to see. Sue, you're a teacher, I understand?
Yes, I teach at Princeton High School.
Okay. And you teach at JCC or other workshops occasionally?
Occasionally I have taught some workshops,
Okay.
yes.
And you have a website?
I do at SueAvera.com.
SueAvera.com. And Johnny, I believe you have a website.
I do have a website, jedii.com, Jedi.com, or on Facebook at Jedi Light Painting.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us this month.
Thank you.
We hope you'll all come and see the work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next month's artist reception will be on May 7th here at the Clayton Center, and we will be featuring the Clayton High School art students. We hope to see you there.